Hi everybody and welcome back to the vlog. Today we're going to be doing a vlog about wiretaps and how effective they are to law enforcement. I think wiretaps and CIs are one of the two greatest tools law enforcement has, especially the FBI and the DEA. They yield so much information. You know, once they have your phone wired, and somebody else calls that phone and talks about committing crimes, then they'll have PC to get that guy's phone wired, and when somebody calls that guy and it branches out, before you know it, everybody's up. And by up, I mean wiretap on their phone. So before I get into that, I'd like to apologize for my last video. I left out a crucial piece of that vlog, which was never get high on your own supply. And what I left out was, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but there's a part of the story that has to do with 2.5 kilos of cocaine going out a window on 34th Street in Manhattan. And it hit a bus. That's what I said. And it did hit a bus. But the crucial part of the story that I left out is it hit in the center of the bus's roof. And that's where it stayed. And when the light turned green, the 34th Street bus headed west with all that dope on the roof. So that's what I wanted to do, and I want to let you know that I'm sorry I left that part out. Okay, so now let's get back to today's video. I think I'm the only confidential informant in history that ever devised a system where I could wiretap the drug dealers that I were working. Yep, I did it. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Now, it may be a little lengthy, but I believe that every detail is very important, because there's going to be a lot of people out there going to say, well, that's bull crap. How can he do that? Well, if you guys would just bear with me, I'm going to tell you how I did it. So while working with the DEA, I would always, you know, we worked very close together. We flew back and forth from New York to Miami, and we became pretty good friends. And they were telling me just about everything. Of course, they wouldn't tell me any names, but they were telling me talking about other cases. And time after time after time, they would be talking about, we got a wiretap, and we heard this, and it was just mind-blowing. And I became a little jealous. Oh, fuck, I wish I had my own wiretap. Then I could really make a lot of money and do nothing but sit there and listen to them. So I did. So back in 1986, there was a new invention. It was called Cordless Telephones. And they came out. And of course, I bought one. And I bought the best one. And it was a Southwestern Bell FF 1700 telephone. Not like this one, but this one exactly. Now, I bought the phone, and this was the first time that you could actually leave your house, unless you had a cell phone, which was very expensive back then, and you could walk as far as 4 blocks away. So that piqued my interest. I said, wow, that's interesting. And then I was dating this prostitution who you may have heard about, Danielle Staub. So I figured out that the base unit, which is here, which is connected to a landline, and the handset had to be on the same channel, of course, right? And so then I read the owner's manual, and there's 10 channels here, and there's 10 channels here. They both have to mirror one another. And I quickly learned that, wow, if I buy another one, I would have an extension for this. And I could listen into anybody I want that had the same phone. But so let me stop there and let me unbox this phone right now. First time in 30-something years. I'm going to show you exactly how this was done. Got the owner's manual right here, which will better describe how this was done. Okay. I'm going to pull out the phone itself. So anyway, there's a page 10 in the owner's manual, remember that, page 10, that tells you that there's a dial that you can rotate, and there's 10 channels, channel 1 through 0, 10, that's the channel. Then they had these little switches, 1 through 10, that you could either put up or down, up or down. And that was the security device with this phone, okay? Now remember, page 10. I bought like 2 cases of these phones because I had all of them wiretapped. This is the handset. Okay. So now here, as you guys can see, the channels are this little green block over here, and they go 1 through 10. And these little switches here, you could either put them up or down, 1 through 10. Now that was the tricky part. So what I did was I took some crazy glue and I glued, put a little glue on here, and I glued each one of these security switches so that they could not be moved. Then what I did was I took this page 10 with my razor blade and cut it out. Okay. So now I have an extension to this phone. So I knew I could do this because I did it to Daniel Staub. Okay. Now one day I'm in the office of the DEA on 57th Street, and another agent was coming up with a CI. And there can never be 2 CIs in that office at the same time. So what my agent did was he says, oh, I got a guy coming up. You get into this room. And he put me in a room. And in the room, they had a table with 5 telephones and 5 answering machines. And in front of each answering machine, there was a stack of business cards. And so now they throw me in there, and I'm watching all the business cards. So I just took one, a couple of them, and I put them in my pocket. And I'm waiting for the phones to ring because I'm stuck in there until they get rid of this guy, until he leaves. So, Tom Silvanki, my handler, opens the door and says, it's just only be another 5 minutes. I said, hey, what's going on with all these phones? He goes, those are undercover business phones. Undercover business phones. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, if an agent is working undercover and he needs to, they ask him what he does for a living, he pulls out the card. It's a business. It was like an undercover thing. But they had 5 of them with 5 real phone numbers, and they had the real address of 555 West 57th Street. So now that's played a very important part in this. So anyway, so now I'm in Miami, and all my DEA friends are talking about how great their wiretaps were. And I started to think, I said, wow, if I could get these drug dealers to buy one of these phones, of course they would never fall for me giving them one. That would set off all kinds of alarms. So I said to myself, if there's a way for me to get these phones to these drug dealers, I'll have my extension, then I get a cassette recorder with an external mic which has a suction cup that goes right where behind the earpiece, and every thing that's said on this phone will be recorded. And I needed that because most Colombians, when they did their crooked shit, they would speak Spanish. But how can I get the phones to the drug dealer? And then I thought, wow, I got that phony company, and I remember getting some kind of KitchenAid mailed to me. Congratulations, you won this KitchenAid for 30 days, and if you don't think it's the best KitchenAid ever, just send it back and we won't charge a card. Boom, I went, wow. So I said, I got the business card. So I took the business card and a regular sheet of paper, put the business card on top, taped it, photocopied it, and then I created my own letterhead. Now, each and every one of those 5 businesses were generic companies, like J&L Enterprise. They were generic. They could have done anything. But they had the right address and that phone that had a answering machine on it, and the answering machine would answer, "Hi, you've reached JBL Enterprise, just leave," you know, it's standard. So I had that. So what did I do? What did I do? I came up with the idea. First I bought like 1 or 2 of these, and I coded them to my phone. So, and then I mailed them out. And the letter went like this: congratulations, you have won a 30-day free trial period for the FF 1700 telephone. If you don't think it has the best clarity, the furthest range, just after 30 days, send it back and you won't have to pay the $129.95. Well, I knew everyone that I sent it to was, you know, another thing about these drug dealers. They were the cheapest guys going. They were just unbelievable, cheap. So I knew none of them were ever going to send that back, and then I put the thing in. Sure enough, I did one, Bango in Miami, and it worked. He lived on the 26th floor. I went down one day, and I simply turned on the phone and got a dial tone. It worked. Every time his phone rang, my phone would ring, and then I pushed the record button, and I heard everything they said. So now, let's get a little deeper into the technical issues here. So that's fine for incoming calls. But how do I find out if there's an outgoing call? Simple. I just periodically turn the phone on, turn the phone off, turn the phone on, turn the phone off. But the problem with that is that every time I would do that, and if you can come in a little closer here, there's 3 red lights on the top of the base. The middle light says in use, and it's red. So every time I would see if he made an outgoing call, and I pushed the on button, that would light up. So that was a problem for me. So what did I do? I asked my wife, "You got any red nail polish?" And we painted that one, and you couldn't tell. It still looked red, but it would never light up. And of course, what are they going to do? Send it back for repairs? They're going to think that. So anyway, now 1 of them worked. Now 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, probably 25 of them. I bought a whole case of these phones, and I was going through some boxes, and I found it, and I went, wow, I got 1 left over from 1986. This is brand new. So they started working, and they started working. And before you know it, I had all kinds of information. When they would say, okay, I'm coming, they get a call saying, listen, I need 5 white shirts. That was the code for cocaine. That's 5 kilos. And he would say, okay, meet me here, or they would never do business in their apartment. They would always take the dope out and meet them someplace outside their house. And so I would just knock them off. I'd just make a phone call and say, okay, I got information. He's coming down, boom, 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 boom. And I made over $80,000. Now, that's $80,000 $1986. Let's figure out what that could buy. Oh, I know. With another 10 grand, you could buy a house. I mean, you know, that was a lot of money. And so I thought, you know, so what else? What else did I want to touch on? So, okay, how I got caught. How I got caught. And I did get caught. But as in my other videos, I explained to you guys that when you're a really important confidential informant for any of the federal agencies, even locals, you're basically above the law by the law. You could do whatever you want, and they're just going to look the other way. They're not going to do anything. So one day, I was in Miami. I was doing my wiretap, and the guy got just such a call. Julio called, Juan up, and went 5 kilos of cocaine. Great. And he says, I'll meet you in an hour at this location. Boom. I get on the phone to my guy, and even if he was in New York, we worked with the FDLE. It's called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It's the elite law enforcement agency in the state of Florida. And so anyway, so I called my agent up, and I gave him this information. Second, he hung up. And he was shocked. He goes, what, how did you know that? I said, what do you mean, how do I know? What do you mean? This is my job. This is what I, no. Where are you? And that's where I effed up right there. And I said, why? He goes, where are you? And I told him some bullshit story where I was. And he says, how did you know that? I said, what do you mean, how do I know? Are you at such and such's address? Because don't forget, this guy was he had an open case on him. And I said, no. He goes, I don't know what the F you're doing, but you better stop right now. I want to see you in my office in the morning. So I go to the Florida, what was it? In Fort Lauderdale, they had the DEA agent office there. And of course, they don't allow informants in their offices in Florida. They don't. That's the big mistake New York made. But anyway, so I talked to him in the parking lot. He goes, what the F are you doing? How did you find that out? And I said, listen, dude, don't come off to me like that. So we were having a little pissing contest here. Now, don't forget, I am not a confidential informant that's working off a case, which means they're the boss. They tell you what to do, and if you don't do it, they'll cancel your plea agreement. That's what they'll do. But in my case, now I'm working maybe 20 drug dealers in 3 different states, and they need me. So he calmed down, because you saw I was getting pissed off. We went back and forth. So he goes, I'm going to tell you what. I don't know what you're doing, but the guy that called him, I was listening to it real time. That guy's phone was wired when he called him. So he heard it all in real time. So then I had to stop that. But anyway, I thought this was a good, cool story to tell. And let me know what you guys think. I mean, I had my own wiretap. Unheard of. I'm going to end the vlog for now, and please like and subscribe. I mean, if this ain't going to entertain you, a story like this, I don't know what will. So I'll see you on the next one. Thank you and God bless. Mwah.